an honor for me to be here to preside over Mr. JP's services, and you know, God gave us the gift of memory, and there's a lot of memories that we got on Mr. JP. And for me as a little boy and living down the street, we all played ball, and he and I always had big hunting stories. Most of them the truth too. But we're gathered here to celebrate the life of Mr. John J.P. Wyatt. He was born July 4th, 1935 in Monroe, and went to be with the Lord on September the 2nd, 2021. He's survived by his wife, Miss Joyce Wyatt, daughter, Terry Wyatt Grayson, and her husband, Greg, two sons, Johnny Wyatt, his wife, Becky, and Mike Wyatt, grandson, Brandon, and sister, Miss Eva Jean Scott. So at this time, I'm going to ask Johnny to come up, and he's going to share a few thoughts, and then I'll get back up and invite anybody in the crowd to come and share a memory of Mr. JP.
Appreciate y'all being here this evening to celebrate the life of my dad, JP. He was the most fascinating man I've ever met in my life. Fascinating person. It took me 64 years to figure him out. When I first grew up, for the first 12 years, when we got home from school, every kid in the neighborhood was there. Playing baseball, playing football, playing basketball, throwing a frisbee, who could jump on the pogo stick the longest. And Daddy orchestrated the whole thing. I couldn't figure out, did they come to see us or did they come to play with Daddy? And so we moved across the highway when I was 12 years old. And it was the same thing. At Christmas, everybody spent time with their parents. And then by the time 9 o'clock, they were all at our house. And we had Christmas dinner. My mother was the best cook in the world. And we were hunters. My brother and I hunted. Daddy was a hunter, the best hunter I've ever known. Maybe other than my brother. And all of our friends, Phil Hobbs, Jay Woods, Robert Wood, they all became hunters because they hung around with us, and they all became good hunters. And it was like that when we grew up, moved out of the house. Our friends came to see Daddy. We weren't there. I called Daddy, what'd you do today? Well, old J-Buck come by and we worked on the boat or something, you know, anything. They just came to see Daddy. And my brother was more like Daddy than me. When I got about 30 years old, I stopped hunting and fishing. But my brother loved it. So Daddy would call me and say, well, what'd you do today? I said, well, I worked out for a couple hours, watched the Financial Channel and did some things around here, ran a few errands. Oh, you didn't do anything, huh? And I would laugh at it. It would actually tickle me, because if you wasn't getting ready to hunt and fish or just got back, you weren't doing anything that day. Yeah. My dad was a dad to many sons. It's just that my brother and I had the blessing to be his biological son. I've had people call me since he passed while he was sick, and I have actually had to, what do you call it? I actually had to console them, thank you. I lost But I would tell him, don't feel sorry for me, because I've been blessed. I had him for 64 years, and he was the best daddy that I could have. And I was talking to my buddy, Buzzard is what I called him. And I said, Buzzard, don't feel sorry for me. I said, I had him for 64 years. Well, he met me when I was 12, Buzzard did, and he said, yeah, and I had him for 52. Everybody loved Daddy. And Daddy got his last step out of life. I had the opportunity to take care of him, my brother and I did, after we found out he had cancer. And 3 days before I put him in a wheelchair, I stood him up in a recliner, and it was nothing but skin and bone. And he was wobbling and shaky. And I said, Daddy, you think it's time we get the wheelchair? And he said, we ain't getting no damn wheelchair today. And I said, okay. And so the last day before he passed, I put him in a wheelchair. He took his last step. Mama, he loved Mama that more than life itself. That was the only reason he hated to leave, because he couldn't take care of Mama. And I tested that love a few days before he passed. He couldn't hardly walk. And I said, Mama, you want me to go get you something from Popeyes? She said, yeah, I need a couple pieces of chicken. I said, what you want with it? She said, well, I take some coleslaw, but I don't want it from there. I want it from KFC. And I said, you want it from KFC? She said, yeah. And I said, look, Mama, and Daddy said, son, she don't want anything. She's nauseated. She don't. I said, okay, I'm going to get me something. I'll be back in a few minutes. Well, I knew what was going to happen. Mama was fixing to get her chicken from Popeyes and get her coleslaw from KFC. I went home real quick, came back, and she was sitting in a recliner with her chicken and her coleslaw from KFC. That is what love is. That is putting yourself out when you don't want to. When you feel like doing other things, and you push yourself to do what somebody else wants. I look around and I see all these people, and I know that my son Breck, I raised him, and he loves J.P. White. He don't like him, he loves him. The girl that does my mother's hair, she loved my parents 10 years before she ever met them. They love my parents. I don't see anybody in here that probably Phil Hobbs loves my daddy and mother. That just blows my mind. And it took me, like I say, 64 years to figure. He gets up in the morning, he beat the sun up in the morning and hated to see it go down in the evening, because he had something else he wanted to do. I mean, it was the most incredible walk in life. He caused me and my brother and sister to be how we are. I said, Daddy's perfect. My brother said, no, he's not. He's got a flaw. I said, what's that? Well, he tells everybody where I'm fishing. He said, I was at Moon Lake one day, at 1 week, he said, I was tearing them up, white perch. He said, about the second day, I called Daddy. And Daddy said, what you doing? He said, I'm fishing. He said, you catching anything? Brother, he's kind of cocky, tearing them up, you know. He said, well, where you catching them at? He said, Moon Lake. He said, the next day, he's sitting there and this boat pulls up. He shuts it down right beside him. He said, catching any? Brother said, not very many. He said, well, my friend said his son is tearing them up out here. and my brother says, who is your friend? He said, J.P. Wyatt. And so he said, before it was over, he was surrounded by J.P. Wyatt's friends. He said, I cranked up and left. And he said, went out in the river and I stopped and called Daddy. And he said, Dad said, what you doing? He said, fishing. He said, you catching any? He said, tearing them up. He said, where are you catching them? He said, Secret Lake. He said, Secret Lake. He said, I ain't never heard of Secret Lake. Brother said, I know you hadn't, because if I told you where it was, it wouldn't be a secret anymore. So, people call or tell me, and I know it's just because they're friends and they love us and everything, but they tell us they're sorry for their loss. And this is what I say to them, don't feel sorry for me. Because I had him 64 years. The best daddy that I could ever have. And when I was a kid, I was 60 when I was 4. I've always been a different kind of person. And I thought, I knew that when I was alive, that everybody that's born is gonna die one day. And I knew my parents were gonna go too one day. And hopefully, I was gonna be there to see that, or they hope that. Nobody wants to see their kids pass. So, knowing that, I said, what do I need to do to prepare myself for their passing? And the answer was to love them as hard as I could every day for the rest of my life. And that's what I did. I told them, I bought them stuff. I did everything that I knew to show them I loved them. And there was never a doubt in their mind. And when my daddy took his last step, he said, son, I'm sorry for causing you this trouble. And I said, Daddy, it's been a privilege. And this day is not a hard day for me. I feel so blessed to have a daddy and a mother that loved him just as much as I did, or more. So I appreciate y'all coming. And if anybody else has anything, I could speak till next week, but I'm gonna let y'all go for now.
Good job.
Well done.
That was great.